Hey, it is Thursday. It is Tactical Talks with Vince. And listen, guys, first of all, whole intro error. Sorry about that, folks. For those of you who came in tonight, you saw my advertisement for the week. You know that this week I wanted to make sure that we were intentional about talking specifically about mental health. And for those of you who've never been here before, welcome to Tactical Talks. It is a platform created specifically for authors, bloggers, influencers of all types who are doing amazing things for the kingdom of God that I feel like you need to know about, because the things that they're doing and they're sharing, it at some point is going to either change the trajectory of where you are. It's going to help to either grow your business, grow your brand, help to foster or encourage the thing that God has already placed inside you so you can become and you can maximize what you've been called to be. And I'm excited about doing that. You know, I love doing kingdom stuff with kingdom people, and today is no exception. I have a guest with me today, and this young man is. When we first talked, I had the opportunity to be able just to hear his heart, and I love that what he does is not just his passion, but I feel like it's almost like something the Lord's kind of been preparing him for his whole life. I'm talking about none other than the uh, CEO of Hopeful Change, uh, counselor and entrepreneur, Mr. Derek Townsend. And so, everybody, thank you so much. Won't you just join me as I celebrate my guest today? Derek, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Good to be here. I'm glad to be here. Blessed, and just happy for the opportunity to have this dialogue with you. And welcome
Man,
to everybody that's watching.
absolutely, absolutely. Listen, so you wear so many hats, man. Let's start off by kind of let's dial back a little bit, and let's identify the man, the husband, you cover so many little areas. What How do you prioritize your life first, man? I need to know that. So before you can help minister to the people, how do you prioritize you? How do you put the face mask on you before you help the others?
To be honest with you, I'm a son of a praying mother, so I start my day off with a prayer and a scripture. Because I know that the work that we do is a lot of warfare that goes into mental health and just dealing when you are trying to do something for the kingdom, you're always going to have those obstacles. So I start my day off with prayer, and then that allows me to get centered and focused on getting my strength for the day. And then at that moment, once I have my strength and I realize my purpose for that day, my purpose for the day is to bring God glory in everything that I do. And I try to help at least one person. I set out every morning to help at least one person. I may have 10, 15 meetings in that one day, but if I can help just one person to be connected to their purpose and to their goal and to overcome an obstacle, then that's what I'm about. But I start off with praying, man. I believe prayer is old fashioned, it's new school, it's necessary, and I think it's a rite of passage.
I love that you said that. And for a lot of us, we are the product of some generations praying something, praying grandma, praying auntie, praying pastor, praying grandpa. And I love that the fact that as you incorporate in your own life, how it absolutely makes a difference. What really started the what started you down the road of even creating Hopeful Change? And let's talk a little bit about the brand Hopeful Change and what it's about.
Okay. Hopeful Change, the brand. We are a full service mentoring and mental health agency. We provide services not only here in Georgia, but throughout the country. We have programs in Indiana and California and Chicago, a lot of cities, Alabama's, a lot of states that are in the Southeast region. But primarily, Hopeful Change started as we saw a need. You know, back in, I say, 1997 was my first experience of God really calling me into this purpose. We were in the inner city, and they were going to shut down one of the summer camps, and we had 120 kids that were going to be misplaced for that summer, whose parents needed that camp just as much as the kids did, so that they could work and be able to take care and just have somewhere safe for their kids to go. When that camp was shutting down, we got together as a community, myself, my brother, and two of our other partners, and we financed that camp. And the reason I go back that far, I was young then, I was a teenager, but that was my first experience of me feeling the call of God on my life and getting me prepared for that direction in life. And it didn't happen at the beginning when we were financing, it happened at the end, the very last day. I had 10 kids that came up to me in tears, and they were holding and hugging me, and they were saying, am I ever going to see you again? And that impact and that feel, when you feel the true and raw love of God, and you feel the fruits of your labor and your purpose. A lot of times when you're working and doing the work of God, you don't realize it, because we always say you're either on the stage or you're in the audience. And when you're on the stage, you're looking at it from a different perspective and different paradigm. So Hopeful Change was started as a grassroots organization to meet the needs of those who couldn't meet it on their own. We try to provide resources to our clients. We have a lot of sponsorship, a lot of partners in the community that we partner with to get this Herculean effort done. So all in all, Hopeful Change again is a full service mentoring and health agency. We do provide mental health services, everything from counseling, therapeutic, family, marriage counseling, and mentoring. So we just try to work and do as God calls us to do, and that's to build his kingdom.
Yeah. My goodness. And I think it's so important to hear your voice share this. The reason I say your voice, and let's be honest, for years, for a long time, um, counseling, going to counseling was a taboo subject in the Black community. Um, for that matter, you could very easily have a situation happen, and you would be more quickly told to pray it off, or God's going to make it, and He absolutely will. Listen, I'm a pastor. I
Hmm.
believe in the power of prayer. Listen, I'm
Yes.
all about what the power of my Father can do. I know what God can do, but I also know that God did not create Christian councils for no reason.
Right.
He didn't. There's a reason why he specifically ordained this line of work and specialized characters who have the ability to be able to help us find God in places where we could not because we were in such great denial. So to hear you say that, and especially representing the community, grassroots, I mean, understanding the very underlings of what you know urban trauma looks like, and then be able to talk about it, that is so powerful, man. How exactly, how well are you received when you present Hopeful Change? Because I realize that in some circles it's still, I guess it would be kind of hard to even talk about. I mean, how are you accepted?
I would say honestly, we're blessed. And to touch on what you mentioned, it has been, and probably will always be a taboo subject in our community. And it's funny because we grew up a lot in the urban community of what happens in this house stays in this house.
Right.
And you hear people that say a lot of times, "I'm too blessed to be stressed," and it's funny because people feel like if we don't talk about it, then it goes away. But it doesn't go away. It only exacerbates the situation because every problem has a solution. Every problem
Mm,
in this world has a solution, and secrecy and shame are not the solution to our traumas. A lot of us have experienced trauma in this world, and we don't even know that it's trauma because we've been desensitized to what trauma truly is. Now, with Hopeful Change, I was blessed, so I can say that God came to me one day and He told me that He wanted us to foster hope through change and foster change through hope. And that's how we
mm,
came up with the name Hopeful Change. Because if you talk to somebody, there's at least one thing they're hoping for, and then there's at least one thing they would like to change in their life if they could, whether it be something current or a past decision, or something of the future. They would like a change in their life. So Hopeful Change is received well in the community because I believe that in order to do God's work, you have to be called to do God's work. And I don't think God would ever send you as a warrior into an arena that He hasn't prepared for you. So we go where we're called.
mm.
We have a lot of partnerships with the schools. We're in a lot of schools in APS and DeKalb County. So in all the major 5 counties in Georgia, we're working in the schools. We're working with churches. It's just like, you've seen God's work as we've connected in this short time. This situation was presented to us. We don't do a lot of social media, we don't do a lot of advertising, but we're effective in what we do. We've reached over 7,000 families. We work with those that others tend to shun. We started out in Bankhead Courts. We
Mm.
started out working off Simpson Road, and working in Westlake and working in those areas where people were afraid to go. Not only afraid to go, we started working in the Bluff. We're where God called us to be. God told us to cast
Wow.
our net wide and He would make it. So I think if you really want to find your purpose in life, first find your passion. and then you have to find your purpose. And in that purpose, God will deliver his promise. So we are well, we've been doing well, we've grown tremendously. We were able to start small. And when I say we, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my better half, my wife, who is the COO and the heartbeat of this organization. She is a Spelman grad, a licensed professional counselor, a certified nurse, and we met, working in this field, in this community, trying to help others. And that's one of the things about Hopeful Change. What you see is what you get. We are going to be as genuine as we have to be, whether it's a mother calling us because her son was just murdered, or a mother calling us because her son was locked up, or if it's a young girl that just had, escaped from a sex trafficking, or, just whatever God calls us to do, we try to do it. Now, we're only one organization, so we believe in partnership. And that's why we're excited to be able to partner and be able to talk and have this dialogue with men of God, such as yourself, that can create a platform for us.
And I'm all about making sure that we make connections for kingdom work, because I think that it's so important for us to be able to understand. Sometimes we are sitting right next to the solution in our lives and we don't
Right.
realize it. And it's partly because we've learned how to, from the hush generation, again, how to internalize, how not to learn how to properly communicate where we are, how we need help, and or be able to identify the power of vulnerability and transparency, because we tell the part that we want to show people and not the whole thing. So we got this whole social media attitude towards how we approach relationships with people, and we show them all of the good, all the glamour, all the glitz,
Hmm.
all the filters, and we don't show them the unphotoshop, the raw, the and because we have a hard time dealing with it. And I'm
Right.
so glad that we're having this opportunity even today to be able to talk about things like this, specifically because I realize that I know that there's some other partners out here that I'm connected to. There's some people who watch Tactical Talks, who connect with Tactical Talks, and I feel like that if nothing else, if all we do is open up the door, create breadcrumbs, people will find the trail if they're hungry enough. They will go and they'll get what the help that they need. I realize that sometimes we need resources to be able to point people to. And I think that you are a fantastic resource. I'm excited about us being able to do more things together, especially at today's episode, and is in light of some tragic news. And I'm not going to go really deep, but we had a family member, a church member who recently took his life, and it was painful to hear. It was hard to hear, but it also brings to light a point that I've been talking about maybe for maybe the past 10 or 11 months, about how important it is for us to understand the power of counseling, of yes, the church has its part. We absolutely have our part, and the faith work has a part. But there are some things that some people need a process to walk through that is tangible, isn't for lack of a better term, full of church jargon, that isn't, Holy Ghost filled and fire baptized, that is practical, but still spiritual and scriptural based. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I definitely agree with that. And that's one of the things, let me say this. Everybody has mental health, but not everybody has mental wellness. We all have feelings,
Mm,
we all have emotions, but not everybody is mentally well.
right.
And that's one of the things that we've had to transition with this COVID, is we've transitioned a lot from being hands-on, face-to-face, running our summer camps and our sports programs, and just being out there in the community. Even our diversion programs that we run with the juvenile system and the Supreme Court, working with those youth that have been charged. A lot of those things were put on the back burner. So we found ourselves not scrambling, but having to reorganize how we could be effective in a time when your resources were cut off. We lost a lot of partners, but we gained a lot of partners. So it was definitely, there's a scripture that says, new wine for new wineskin.
Right.
And we believe that this is a new time. This dialogue, and let me say to your family of the member that took his life, our prayers go out to you. And if you're listening, reach out to us. We have those services that can help you get through this. This is something that we have certified people that are passionate, not only passionate, but are educated. And that's one of the things that we want to stress. Hopeful Change is not just a grassroots mom and pops organization. We have certified counselors, we have certified therapists, we have the best care that you can get. And we also have a kingdom mindset. Open up this dialogue is very important. I was looking at some numbers today in preparation for an event that we're doing. And 1.3 million people attempted suicide in 2019.
Mm,
And you just let that marinate. 1.3 million people attempted suicide in 2019. Those numbers have grown double and triple since COVID. We've seen a rise in domestic violence. We've
yeah.
seen a rise in crime. We've seen people basically, as the DMX say, I'm gonna lose my mind. People have lost their minds. And it's not to make fun of it, but what we try to do, I believe that, like we were talking about earlier, if you continue to put band-aids on bullet wounds, then you're going to only infect the problem. You're not
Right.
helping the problem. If we continue to make it taboo, if we continue to be too blessed to be stressed, I always tell people when they say that, I think you're too fearful to be truthful. Because if we really look at the life that we live, there are so many areas in which we can improve. And not only by improving ourselves do we improve others, but it's our mandate. I
Yeah.
believe as men, we are mandated to help other men by encouraging them and educating them and enriching them. We have to get rid of this prideful mindset and this overly competitive mindset and switch our paradigm of thinking. I look at you, Pastor, and I see energy, I see purpose. And there are people that are looking at this and they want that energy, they want that purpose. But I'll say this, most people want to go to heaven, but they don't want to go to HE double hockey sticks to get there. And you have to have the test in order to have the testimony. It's the first
Yeah.
part of the word.
That's right.
So what we're saying in essence is let's have dialogue. Let's be truthful. You're hurting. We're hurting as a society. As black men, we are the hunted. No matter how educated, no matter how rich we become, we still have certain glass ceilings, certain obstacles that we'll always face just because of the color of our skin. And I think that a lot of trauma that we've experienced as black men has to be addressed. It has to be addressed because that is the centerpiece of how we make this movement move. The black woman, the black man, and this is not a black or white thing, but we're speaking directly to our urban culture and this climate that we're in. We have to come together. There's so many things that divide us as people that we can't see the light for the darkness. And I think that if we can set aside our differences and really truly begin to have that conversation, as you stated, some truths are ugly. And I
Yeah.
think the most dangerous thing is some of our truths are actually mistruths that we've created so that we feel comfortable enough to make that excuse of not dealing with our true trauma.
Coping mechanisms. Exactly.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Man. So when when I think about just how, especially when we were talking about let's just talk about men and specifically black men. I don't think that I think there are two things that are an issue, and I'd like for you to address it in whatever order you want to. The first thing is I don't think that there's a clear example from one generation to the next, from one generation of men to the next, on how to properly engage each other in a way where they can be able to create a safe place to talk about things other than urban culture trash. And the
Right.
reason I call it trash because it's all trash. All trash really is it's sometimes the wrapping or the discarded portions of something that was very important. You know,
Hmm.
so when I eat the burger, the wrapper that it came in is trash. However, it
Right, right.
packaged what was necessary, and I think that urban culture trash, to create a term, if I can, or to coin a term, literally it's the things that have soiled or have junked our community, but that were centered around some very vital, very important things at one point. So when you look at the way that we engage or that we talk to each other. Communication is the heart. It's the importance. The trash is the things that we. we then begin to use in the communication that begin to either dumb down or to that keep us from being able to properly engage at a international world market level, um, or for that matter, or how we engage each other in relationships. And so the two things that I'd like for you to talk about. First of all, I feel like that there's an issue. Or there's a hard break between the example between from one generation to the next for men, specifically on how to properly communicate, how to talk, how to create a safe place to deal with what's really on the inside. And then the other thing is that that there are the places that we historically see a safe place to talk, like the barbershop or whatever. It's still it covers a lot of information, but oftentimes it's not very personally productive. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So my question to you is, how do we create that dialogue between generations, and how do we create safe places, practical safe places on a regular basis for guys to be able to be able to take off all that armor, off of all the to take off the the band-aids so that the bullet holes can be addressed.
I think that's a very good question. I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to pool our resources. There's strength in numbers. You're a pastor, you'll reach a certain crowd. I'm more so out in the streets working, doing the work. And I think if we combine those that I can reach and that you can reach, then we can reach more people together. I think we have to create resources. We have to create opportunities. But you're only as good as your opportunity. If there are no safe spaces for men to go, then they won't go. For lack of better terms and improper English, they won't get fixed. If we don't provide those opportunities, just imagine this. What if there were no hospitals? How would you heal the sick? What would our death rate be without hospitals? We have to have places where people can go and truly be healed. At one point in time, that was considered the black church. But then you add in those elements now where everything has shifted. The black church is coming back to a point where it can be the social and focal foundation of change in this community. And I think that that's what's missing. I think real true men of God are lacking in the kingdom, and God is at a point where he's raising up men who are not worried about dollar signs, who are not worried about members, but are worried about the true purpose and essence. Jesus was a servant. I always tell people, and I always ask the kids, what kind of car did Jesus drive? We're inundated with all of these images. Our children are poisoned with all of these images through music, through,
Yeah,
and I'm a hip hop head. I love music. I work with a lot of guys in the music industry. We have a lot of the entertainers that come out and speak to our kids. But it's then when you see these rappers break down in front of these children and they talk about their traumas. I think we have to start by creating spaces. If you have a church and you're a pastor, and you're not using that church, but only 3 days a week, maybe one of those days you could open up for a group of men to have a brunch, to have a conversation. I'll tell you something interesting. I was invited to an event this weekend where there was a daddy spa day for men. And to see those men come in and not know what to do, and to see them from the point that they came in, like, man, all this for me, like, what do I have to do? To see those men get manicures and pedicures and
yeah,
massages and facials, and you talking about hardcore men, like these are, you talking about gangsters and gentlemen getting, never having 30, 40-year-old men, never having that experience. But when they left, everybody was blessed. So I think we have to create opportunity in order to address the obstacles. We have to have these safe spaces in which we can have this dialogue. I think what we're doing tonight is important because you're addressing it. I don't think you can fix anything that you don't address.
yeah. I love that you brought up that event. I am kudos really quickly and a shout out to Aisha Parham, who is I feel like she is a fantastic yoke fellow in, and I literally what she does is it's ministry, and I'm super grateful to be able to know her, and I'm so glad that she does what she does in the Lord placed her where she is, and all the partners that work with her, Reggie and all the rest of the group, and just to be able to see how they operate, and to be able to be a part in whatever capacity we can when we do help and when we're a part of it. Um, I think that you brought to light a great point. That I think that sometimes it's not until we create these safe spaces
Mhm.
that we can create momentum. Um, I have a my heart's desire is to see the church, or to see the body of Christ specifically, but to see the church building used as a kingdom resource. That it's not just church service. That I tell people, if I today if I was going to build, I'd never build a church. I'd build a community center. I'd
Mhm.
never build a church. Let the church have church in the community center, but make it so that it's something that be able that has a deep rooted effect on the area, on the community, because it's so necessary. It's so important. Um, I love that those guys got the opportunity to have a first
Yeah.
of a lifetime experience too. That's pretty cool to be able to hear about. We have having sound problems. We're good. Okay. Um, so let me ask you this, and let's kind of change the lane a little bit. Um, I realize that the church, and we've kind of talked about the church a little bit, but I want to kind of turn it up on 10 when we talk about the church, because I can. I'm a pastor, and I'm not scared.
Mhm.
I got
I got
keys,
you.
and they can have them. Um, but here's the thing. Historically, the church has had it has had men in leadership and lots of ladies supporting historically. And the downside of what has happened is we watch the position of the posture, specifically of men in the pulpit, be so aggressive, be so combative, so it is always to me it has always felt like that the message towards men has always been, because we don't see you, like all the ladies here, and the husbands don't come with the wives, and the guys don't, so they always beat the guys up, and Father's Day turns into a boxing match, and it's always what you should have done, and I think that sometimes that even when we talk about Father's Day and how poorly it is represented, or how poorly it is supported or celebrated, and we look at that, but I realized that historically the black church has never really incorporated or encouraged. Um, can't hear. You can't hear me still. All right, let's see if we can work that out. Let's see if we can. I am. I am. All right. Well. All right. So my engineer's working on me. My engineer's working on me. Let's see if we can get
Okay.
this better. I realize that historically the church has been it is beat up the guys so much that that guys have not been interested in connecting and communicating. That the church has not been a safe place, and I want us to make sure that we create, especially, and you hit a key point. I feel like that right now, especially after COVID, the Lord has created this beautiful paradigm shift where it is forcing the church to have to recreate itself, find creative ways to connect, find new ways to be intentional about how we interact with the whole family on every level. And so I'd like to know, like, from the outside in, what are some things that you feel like the body of Christ, specifically pastors, need to begin to address, or in helping to create that? You gave us an example of creating a day for a brunch for dads on a regular basis. What are some of the other things that you feel like that are absolutely necessary to be able to kind of help foster this I almost want to say, to grow the brotherhood, if you will.
I'll say this. I'll answer this in a unique way. I think we as people, and especially pastors, because they're leaders, need to be more transparent. I think the more transparent we are, the more receptive and the more people that you'll be able to affect in that situation. I remember one of the most powerful services I've ever been a part of. A pastor got up and he talked about how he had just been struggling, and not only him, but he talked about how that there was a pastor who committed suicide, to for lack of better terms, or not, making a long story shorter. This pastor committed suicide, but this pastor was one of 13 pastors. And that day, that pastor said he wanted to talk to pastors that were struggling. He wanted to talk to pastors that were afraid, pastors that were in the war zone and didn't feel fully equipped. And I think it begins with transparency. One of the things that we do at Hopeful Change, and I think that's effective with our groups, I'm very transparent. We're very transparent as individuals. And I think that without that, you can't build a rapport without transparency. And I think that if a lot of our pastors who are leaders would humble themselves and remember what it was like when you were on the outside looking in, when you were in a quest to find the true meaning of your purpose, I think that utilizing the resources that we have as individuals, opening up the doors of the church to bring in some youth. We talk a lot about the youth and the violence and the things that they get into that are not so godly, or the things that are destroying our community. But what resources could we open? When I was coming up, churches used to do lock-ins. Churches used to have skate parties. They were visibly in the community. Churches have fish fries. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. I think that the people need to know that the church cares. One of the things that because we work with, a lot of gang members, and we try to build those bridges between the church and the streets. And one of the things that we find is that lack of transparency that they feel. A lot of people don't trust the church. A lot of people have been hurt because of the church, and it's not the church's fault. It's that we have to continue the good work that has begun. I think it's very important that we utilize these resources that we've been blessed with. And like you said, I think it was beautiful. If you had a community center, then you could reach the community. And I think that churches have to understand the power that they hold amongst our community, even in a financial standpoint, and especially at a spiritual standpoint. They are the hospitals of our community. They are the refuge that we seek when we're in need, and I just think that we have to continue. I don't want to make it seem like we're bashing churches from an outside perspective. There are a lot of pastors, such as yourself, that are doing what God has called them to do. I just think that more people need to stand up, and I think there needs to be more outreach in the church. Let's get out there in the streets, and let's get out there where the crime is happening. Let's get out there. They used to have revivals. Maybe we need more revivals. I think what worked in the past will work now and will work in the future. And I just think that that's truly being men and women with the heart of God. Let's set aside our fake book and our Instagram and all of those things, and really be true with the essence of who we are, and understand that our purpose is directly connected to the promise that God has placed over our life. And we have to fulfill that in order to live a passionate life.
I appreciate that you brought up that point, especially about the transparency. In my last book, I literally started off saying, this book isn't as a product of of a bunch of victories, or this isn't the playbook from the championship winning coach. This is a product of a bunch of failures, and I'm really, the only reason I do what I do is because I owe God too much. I can't run from it.
Right.
He's pardoned me from too much. He's forgiven me of too much, and I am also the product of counseling, because I realize I'm a piece of work, and I absolutely need Him, and I'm not where I need to be yet. And I talk about those moments when I considered self harm, and the downside is when you begin to make that decision, you get so self absorbed that you don't realize the train wreck, or the casuals, the collateral damage that you create when you do that. And while I'm thinking, they'll be better without me, and then the Lord's like, well, okay, well then who's going to stand there explain to your kids why you left them with this responsibility? And man, part of that just it hurt, just because I love my kids, I love my family, I love the opportunity that He gave me, even when I almost messed it up and blew my whole blew my whole ministry, marriage, everything up, and still He allowed me to walk away from the pieces, and allowed me to be able to walk away with wholeness. The scars mean that it wasn't fatal, that it wasn't a mortal wound, and I appreciate the fact that He allowed me to get to this place. But this is the kind of stuff that when pastors give the impression that we walk on water and that both pants go on at the same time, and and every time we go to the gas station, the pump prices go down. It it disassociates us from the people, and I think that's so important. So I'm glad that you brought that point up. Let's talk a little bit about, because I remember you have a specific concept on how to grow, or to wait. How did you say earlier? You said everyone has mental health, but not everyone has mental wellness.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Yep.
there was an acronym that you used in growing mental wellness. I absolutely love it. I'd love for you to break it down for us, and then let's talk a little bit more about how we can mature or maximize mental wellness.
Okay. What I would say is this. The other day I was in Linux. I hadn't been in Linux in a while, and I admit I was
Did you have your
lost.
vest on?
Things had changed. Yeah, you said what's
Did you have your
yeah,
vest on?
yeah. I had a full armor on. It was so wild in there, man. So the point, when you get in the mall and it's that kiosk that says that you are here. I think a lot of people have to find out where they are in order to truly know where they're going and where they're headed. I think if you look at life, there's tomorrow, which is not promised.
Mhm.
Yesterday is gone. And that's why today is called the present, because it's the
The gift.
gift.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have to learn is to live in the moment. In self health and mental wellness, you have to have self care. And it's so amazing how many people put more time and energy into their cars, making sure the oil is changed, washing the
Right.
cars, making sure that they take care of all of these material things, but not themselves. If there's anybody out there listening, if you can take anything from this, it's the acronym we call FLY. First, yourself. I think if you love yourself first, and if you're 100%, then you can give 100% to those around you. We make so many excuses. Oh, I don't have the time. My kids, my wife, there's always something to
Right.
do. But if you take a moment and think about this, you can have the nicest car. I love fancy cars. Take a Lamborghini. That Lamborghini has to have fuel in order to go. Now,
Mhm.
one of the things about it is your body is just like that Lamborghini. You have to take care of it. You have to stay fueled. Whatever you're feeding yourself is what you are. What are you feeding yourself spiritually, physically, mentally? It's all connected. What you eat is directly connected to how you feel. How you feel is directly connected to how you act. And I think it's important that we take a moment and really embrace what self care is. The directions are in the words. Self care is taking care of yourself. Stop, take a breath, take a walk, call a friend, take a bath, stop and meditate. Sometimes we go to God and we're so busy praying and talking. What I've learned is to just go to God and be quiet for the first 5 minutes and see what He has to say. You
Yeah.
have to start taking your health more seriously, because if you're not at your optimal performance level, then there's no way that you have to be strong enough to hold those that you're holding up, or even pull up those that you're trying to pull up. So let's stop negating the fact that we really truly need to take care of ourselves. We have to first love ourselves. So if you first love yourself, it's biblical. You have to be the person that invests in you the most. I think it's important, as you were transparent about your ideology, we often have to deal with our enemies. It's not our
Mm.
enemies that get us, it's our enemies. It's those inner thoughts that
Yeah.
continue to haunt you. It's those mistakes, those regrets. And I often hear people say fear and faith can't live in the same space. And I'm a witness that they can, but you have to, like the Bible says, choose what you're going to serve. I really think that frustration is just broken focus. We asked a young man, he was 8 years old, and he was contemplating suicide. And I asked him one simple question: what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? And from that dialogue and those answers that he gave, that young man today is now a chef, because he said that he would own restaurants, he would be an entrepreneur, he would make money. And I think that we have to start thinking outside of the box. Life is just not about you. You have to realize the rippling and the devastating effect that suicide has on the people that are connected to you. Those family members, those loved ones. You think you're fixing a solution, but in essence, you're exacerbating the pain and you're creating something that'll never go away. Because when you remove yourself from the situation, I think you're playing God when you commit suicide. And, there may be someone that's contemplating suicide listening to this. I think if you take a moment, breathe, seek out help. Our number is flashing at the bottom of the screen. Our website is there. Seek help. You have to seek help in order to be helped. And you have to be willing to receive help in order to get the help that you need. And I think that's very important, Pastor.
The first time that you shared Fly, I that thing stuck with me. It was so powerful. Um, and it's so simple, and yet it's so it's the same concept that they use on the plane. Like when you
Hmm.
before you can help somebody else, you got to first be able to take put the oxygen mask on yourself. I realized that it's really easy, especially being in pastoral care, being in being a community leader like yourself. It's really easy to be so outwardly focused that we pour and then we pour and then we pour and then we pour and then we pour until we become deficient. We're depleted. And then instead of ministering from an overflow, we're ending up ministering from a deficit. We don't have enough. And so as soon as we get it, we give it. As soon as we get it, we give it because we realize how important that the people need it, but then we don't take care of ourselves. And so to be able to hear that, I'm not gonna lie, I am I for almost 18 of the first 20 years of my pastorate, I was bivocational, and I was so busy pouring because I felt that was what I needed to do, and I didn't want to take anything away from the church building and from the church family. So I'm working because I want to take care of my family, and I don't want to have to be able to take anything from the church. I want to give to the church, and I want to, and I was pouring out here, I was pouring out there. Man, I was burning the candle on both ends, and I did not see how powerful it was to be able to sit down in the presence of the Lord and just be okay, and to let Him love me the way He saw me, and not the way I was trying to be loved. Um,
Yes.
which kind of made my mind, it turned it into a battlefield instead of a safe place. And that's so hard. And what I didn't realize is, you know, the things that we model are the things that our children reproduce. The things that we that
Yes.
we that we live in front of them. No matter how much we say, "Do as I say," they model what they see modeled. And I realized this is something I have to break so that I don't create this same conundrum for my children, the same cycle. Um, what are some major things that you've seen specifically that need to be addressed in breaking cycles to get mental wellness?
I think you touched on it earlier, communication. I think we have to communicate. Communication is essential to survival. I think that, breaking the cycle begins with truly addressing the issue that you're facing. One of the hardest things, and I challenge some of your listeners to do this tonight, is to look in the mirror and do affirmations. One of the things that we
Mm,
have our clients do is affirmations. And you want to talk about seeing a grown man squirm, or a powerful lawyer, doctor, female doctor, not be able to look in the mirror and say positive affirmations. I think we have to begin to speak life, not only to ourselves, but to our community. The
yeah.
power of life and death is in the tongue. And one of the things that is important, like I said, I shared with you the other day, I didn't find God in the church. I found God on the streets. And I think that that's important for people to understand that God is not held within those four walls. If you look at the Bible, Jesus ran with some tough dudes.
Yes, sir.
He ran with some gangsters and some gentlemen, and I
Mhm.
think that we have to begin to break down those barriers, but it begins with a dialogue. One of the things that we've done was a program called Clippers and Cops, where we would bring in officers into the barbershop, and we would bring in those gang leaders, and we would begin to have that dialogue. And you would be amazed. People might say, well, what's the magic pill? It is communication. If you think about how powerful your words are and how they shape the paradigm of how you think, and they shape your atmosphere, then you can understand that just having communication is important and essential to developing and enriching those coping skills that you need. Mental health and mental wellness is not difficult, but it's a challenge. You
Mhm.
know, as we alluded to earlier, I have a saying I heard a pastor say a long time ago: I might have done what they said I did, but I'm not who they say I am.
That's
And I
right.
think if we can begin to see ourselves as God sees us, as a work in progress, as a movement, and not just the mistakes that we've made or those remorses that we have. I think too many people live in the past. I think if you can get into the moment, you'll realize that every problem that you've had failed you. You've overcome every attempt of the enemy because you're still alive. You're still thriving. Look at you now as opposed to when you were having those ideas. Look at how much life you would have missed out on. Look at how many blessings, how many souls that you've gathered, that you brought to the kingdom because you were able to reach down and grab the intestinal fortitude. Life is given not to the swift, but to those who endure. And I think that we have to reach down and decide what fuels us. And I think it takes intestinal fortitude. Life is hard and it's not going to get any easier. I just think that we have to continue to have that dialogue, communicate, and not just communicate, but create those resources and put those plans into action. But I think that's the key, is communication.
So we have this. We've got a few minutes left. We're already
Okay.
at 45. We got about maybe 10. So let's see, about 14 minutes left. I want to make
All
sure
right.
that we get the opportunity to recap some important points so that people can walk away. So if they don't do anything else, if you guys are on right now and you're still with us, and what I'd love for you to do is just really quickly down in the bottom or in the chat, if you'll just go ahead and just um type in what city you're from, and then also I encourage you to just type in what is one of the mental challenges that you deal with. What's a roadblock that you deal with? I'd love for you to put that in there so we can be able to have Mr. Townsend go ahead and talk about that a little bit. So really quickly, can you give us? All right, so you gave us some things, some tools that we can use, and what I wanted to do is I want people to be able to walk away with some applicable, you know, steps, truths, things that they can do, that they can begin growing their mental wellness starting tomorrow, starting tonight. You already referenced affirmations. Is there a list or a place or a book that you encourage to get suggestions for affirmations, or is it listed on your website? Is that something that you have people make themselves? And then what would be let give us like five things that we can do. I want to make sure that our my producer go ahead and put them on the screen for us so that people can be able to have those some five quick points from hopeful change that they can begin to apply in their lives immediately right now to begin to grow and to master mental wellness.
I think the first thing is the blueprint. I think journaling. Get a journal, write down how you feel, write down your dreams. I think journaling is important. Every great architect has blueprints, and I think you need to develop that blueprint for your life. So I think journaling is important. I think taking time, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day, I think it's definitely important to engage in self care. Take a bath, take a walk, take a shower, do something fun. I like to tell people, do something fun within that day, but make sure that your self care is intentional. Be unapologetic about your self care. I think a third thing would be to find your purpose. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? And that will begin to enhance and fuel that fearlessness that it takes to truly be your true self. I think the fourth thing would be is to trust God. Trust the process. You hear it all the time. You hear the kids saying nowadays, trust the process. I think that's the truest element, because without trusting God, no matter what you do, it's not going to work. If God is not in the mix, you're not going to be successful in it. And I think the fifth thing, Pastor, is the most important thing. I think that people can breathe. You have to breathe. Take time to breathe. If you would take 3 deep breaths, even in this moment, you'll see how much stress you relieve. I think if you breathe, then you brings you back to the true essence, that you realize that that breath that you just took was a gift from God. And I think if you are able to put all five of these things together, in a quick moment, you'll see that they're not only applicable, they're free, they're enriching, they're educating, and you'll begin to get in touch with your true self. And I think that that's important. Take time to breathe, rest, relax, restore. I think that's very, very important to the mental health and the mental wellness. And if I could add a sixth point, it would be to eat healthy. Make more consciously nutritious decisions in your diet, because you'll see it that if you change your diet, it'll change the way you think, it'll change the way you feel, it'll change the way you act. And I think that, hopefully
Facts.
that was good enough. I felt the pressure on that one.
No, man, that was fantastic. You rattled those off so great that you they were already in use, and I think it's not hard for someone to speak about something that is their passion. Like I said in the intro, I feel like the Lord has just been preparing you for this for your entirety of your life, because there's no area that you can't pull from in your life that you can't directly apply in the way that you share and the way you encourage people. So again, starting number one, you said journaling. The blueprint is so important, man. I can't tell you how important uh, the power of a pen is.
Yes.
Listen, people, uh, the ink, and it seems like when it gets on your clothes, it's a mess. But when that ink gets on a napkin from a restaurant because an artist needed to write down the lyrics and it turns into a hit, that ink made a difference. When that ink stops bullets because it signs a peace treaty,
Hmm.
that ink makes a difference. When you can write and then the power of what was trapped inside of a person's mind gets erected because it's the blueprints from an architect, that ink is powerful. So listen, use I love that you use the blueprint as an example. Um the so number one was journaling. Again, number two was taking time for yourself, the self-care, right.
Yep. Self care. Yep. Self care.
Self-care. Finding your purpose was number three. Trust the process. Number four, trust God. And in order for us to get to the product, we have to be connected with the process, brother. I promise you, I just preached that on Sunday. I love when the Lord just brings confirmation like that, because I
Amen.
think sometimes people get so focused on the product that they get disassociated from the process. They don't want anything to do with the process, but you have to be in the process. It's like when you go to the store and you buy your steak wrapped in plastic.
Hmm.
You got disassociated from the process.
Right.
You're down when you drive on the highway and you're looking at the farms and you see the cows on the side of the road. Nobody looks at the cows and says, "Oh, steak,"
Right.
brisket. They
Right.
see, "Oh, moo cow." But when you think about it, that in order for you to get the product that you love, you have to go through the whole process. And we've been so disassociated from the process, that we lose the product loses its value. And so I love the fact that trusting God, let the Lord do what He's going to do. The next thing He said was breathe, and we're talking about breathing physically, like
Physically.
taking deep breaths, like
Yeah.
exhaling, like and when you say breathe, is this incorporating exercise? Is this just taking breaths? I mean,
There are certain breathing techniques that you can research. There are techniques 342, where you're they the science behind breathing is so extravagant and so immense as far as the details and how breathing actually saves your life. When you take a breath, you're bringing in fresh oxygen and letting out the toxins, and if you can breathe, then like I said, it brings you back to the manufacturer. We've all been created for a purpose, and we come with an instruction manual. And I think it's good that you get to that instruction manual because the manufacturer created you with a purpose.
yes,
you
sir.
know and I think that's important. Breathing just physically, it's nothing. If you can exercise, if you can run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, then stand still and move in place. But I think we have to get moving. I think the body of Christ needs to be more active. It needs to be more fit, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is bring these programs that will not only help with our mental health but help our whole community. We're a village. I come from where Miss Myers, or you know Miss Janie down the street, they could whoop you just as
That's
fast as
right.
your mother could. And I think
Yep.
that we've lost that sense of who we are as a village. We've been stripped of our culture and our heritage. And I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of these movements is we're getting back to the basics. So just breathe. Take time to and let it out. If you do that 3 times, I guarantee you, you not only added some time to your life, but you de-stress in that process. It's clinical. You can research it.
Love it. Love it. And then the last one was eat healthy. And
Yeah, the hard one.
man, that's man, you made somebody turn, you made somebody's face turn up
Yeah,
real ugly when
yeah.
you said that.
I made him put down that ice cream.
Well, I am eating healthy. I ate greens. Well, look, exactly how much pork and salt did you put in the greens?
Mhm,
Now, ain't nothing wrong with it eating for a little flavor, but I need you to also eat salads too.
mhm.
Oh man, just the leaves, just the leaves.
Just really quickly, in studying, there's certain fruits and vegetables that you can eat in a combination that will cure cancer, that will prevent
Mhm.
cancer, not necessarily say cure, but that will prevent. I advise people to educate themselves on what they're eating. Everybody says I'm going to go vegan. Maybe vegan is not for you.
Yeah.
I think you should make a conscious decision and realize the old adage that this is a temple. This body is a loner. And when you give it back to God, if he gave you a Bentley, you don't want to give him a hoopty, or, you
Come
don't give him a bucket.
on,
You
come
want to make
on.
sure that this is the only body that you get. And I think we have to be good stewards over what God has given us. And I'm guilty myself. COVID has did me in, but I'm on a path to make sure that I'm doing these things. One of the things that I'm saying, the reason it was so easily off the tongue is because I live, eat, and breathe what we preach. I am a firm believer that you have to be a man of your word, a woman of your word, and you have to make a commitment. I think if you make a commitment to yourself and you begin to take care of yourself, it'll enrich and enhance how you worship God.
Man, I am so excited that you came, and listen, I am super grateful. Do you have anything coming up? Is there's and I want to show before we go, I want to make sure we show your website. Is there anything that is coming up that we need to know about that we can participate in? And I love the for those of you who know us at the Catalyst, you guys know we I'm a firm believer of having a ministry experience. It's not a church service. Hosting bike and car shows, PlayStation tournaments, Madden tournaments, movie nights for the community, doing things. We host the drum line, the basketball teams, cheerleading. The things that we do is because I realize that we can't just throw oil. We can't just cut the rug up. We can't just have the organ play. That there has to be practical applications in everyday portions of our life, so people can be able to see what it looks like to live for God every day, not just on Sunday. And God was never interested in church. I love the fact that you shared that you didn't find God in church. Let's be honest. Most people never find him in church. They find him either at the bottom of a bottle, find him waking up in somebody else's bed, find him at the bottom of a crack pipe. Wherever you find him is where you find him. What happens after you find him is what changes your life. And I
Absolutely.
love that you brought that. I want to show your website, and if you would please share with us anything that's coming up, so we can know how to be able to connect with you, to know what's happening, so we can be able to participate in what you're doing in the community.
We have a lot of events coming up right now. It's back to school, so we have several back to school events. What I would say is if you could follow us at Change Hopeful, or look on our website. We'll be publicizing and sending out those flyers. You can even reach us at thehopefulchange at gmail.com. What we're doing right now is just making sure that our youth have the tools and the resources they need for back to school. We have a lot of seminars and workshops that we're working on, a lot of programs that we're developing with our partners. One of our big movements right now is Hope Over Hate, where we're tackling that violence, we're tackling self-hate, hate, so we're working in our community. We're always busy working, trying to build the kingdom. Like I said, right now we have about 3 or 4 back to school events. We're looking to partner with communities that are out there that need that help. If you're a business partner, if you're a small organization, a big organization, and you want to sit down and dialogue and see how we can build, and we definitely would do that. But we'll have our flyers posted on our social media. We're getting better at our social media, I will say that. The young people got on me. They said, if you don't have social media, it all sounds like Cap, Mr. DT. We're working on our
You
social
don't
media, but
exist.
definitely follow us. So
Yeah.
yes, that's it. I'm learning the hard way. So We have that at Change Hopeful, hopetochange.com. Check us out, look and see what we're all about. And I want to say this before we get out of here, Pastor Gord. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate not only your honesty, but your bravery in touching on a subject that a lot of people are afraid of embarking and embracing. And I pray that you and your family are blessed because of your intestinal fortitude. And, I got your back. I'm happy. I'm excited about what's going ready to happen, between the kingdom of God and this world, and how God is getting ready to raise up a standard against the enemy. And I think that you are definitely a forefront runner of this and a pioneer of the change that's to come. And I salute you, from one man to the other.
Thank you, sir. I'm humbled by your words, but I'm super grateful that the Lord allowed us to connect, because I realize that what you bring to the table and what you're doing for the kingdom is absolutely necessary. And if nobody else knows about it, I'm going to make sure that we help to get your word out, to get hopeful change out. People need to know about what you're doing, need to hear your voice, need to be able to see what the answer looks like. And also, I salute, I believe, is it Miss Dana Townsend, who's holding it down
Yeah,
there?
Miss Don Townsend. Yep, that's my better
Okay, I'm
half.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. She
Yeah,
keeps
yeah,
keeps me clean.
keep us honest, right? Keep us honest.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to
Listen,
my two boys. I'm a father of a 5 and a 10-year-old, and they keep me blessed. And I think that that's important. Be a father, be a friend, be a wife. Be a prayer warrior. Just continue to be you.
man, it is probably the greatest job that you could ever have, when you're given the privilege and the opportunity to do it well. And I'm talking about being a father, because let's be honest, there's a reason why the Lord calls us His children. He loves the idea of being a father, and this is as close as we get to understand what He loves and how He loves us. So I count it an honor to be a dad. I am also a dad of two plus three plus five. It was we got two, and then we got a few others, and we collected a bunch along the way. The Lord knows what He's doing, but I'm super grateful for every
Amen.
single way He's given us.
Amen. I understand that. I definitely.
Listen, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Um,
Okay.
to all of you who are with us tonight, first of all, again, listen, mental health is not just, listen, you heard my guest say tonight, everyone has mental health. Everyone has mental health, but not everyone has mental wellness. I want you to work on your mental wellness. Look at the points that we talked about tonight. If you need to replay it, go back, play it. If you know someone who needs to hear what we talked about tonight, won't you tag them in the bottom? Won't you share the video? I encourage you guys, when we come back next time, if we get the opportunity to talk about mental health again, of course, I'm going to make sure that I bring Mr. Townsend back. And for those of you who are searching for more information concerning Tactical Talks, you can find it right here, hashtag TTVG. It is my honor and privilege every time that we get the opportunity to share time together, and I count it an honor. To my Catalyst family, I love you guys so much. Looking forward to us being able to do more things for the kingdom. This is Pastor Vince. Talk to you guys later. Bye.